Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Get Over Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Davis, and this is going to be a part two in a part two of two series where I interview Justin Prince. Justin is an amazing figure, and if you have not listened to episode 1 of the podcast yet, that was released last Friday, so make sure to go check out that episode before you listen to today's episode. Justin dropped so many pieces of wisdom on that first episode, and so you can get to know him and his story a little bit better. Once again, go make sure to watch and listen to that episode before, and that way you will be completely prepared for today's episode. But guys, with all that being said, let's jump into part 2 of the Justin Prince episode.
And so I was hungry, just that hustle I had. So you read, you listen, you surround, and then number 4 is you apply. You got to apply what you learn. So Da Vinci said, "It's he that doeth the deed that hath the power." If you want the power, you got to do the deed. You can't just get you can't just get there without the application. So you could read all the great books, you could listen to all the right stuff, you could surround yourself with the great people. But man, if you don't apply it, and so even like a podcast like this, one thing I would encourage you to be thinking about is like take one thing that you'll hear today, just one thing. And so you ask, okay, what's the one thing I can apply, and go apply it. And you never want to leave the site of inspiration without taking action. So maybe you kind of get inspired to like, man, maybe I need to maybe what I need to do is I need to, make that phone call or return that phone call or do that post or reach out to that person, or I need to take action, or I need to say I'm sorry, or I need to initiate this. Like take action, do something that takes action, leaving this podcast. That's how you start creating momentum. The next physical action, the next physical step is how you start creating positive momentum. So as I look back, that's kind of how I felt like I did it. Like is, read, listen, surround, apply. Those kind of a combination of those 4 things.
That's perfect. And I kind of want to dissect those a little bit one by one, and especially focusing on first reading. And then I really want to dive into mentorship and then obviously the application, right? First, for the reading, I couldn't agree more. I feel like so many people nowadays, they kind of just think they can ride the wave, especially with the influx of social media. It's so easy to just, sit on your phone and just keep scrolling. And you don't realize how much time you waste on social media where you could be applying it to so many other things, right? And there's been moments in my life where I'm sitting there and I'm dog tired. And I guarantee you can relate to this more than anyone. But a ton of the listeners here on the podcast, if you guys have been in that moment where you're super tired, you've had a really long day from work, from school, from whatever obligations you have going on in your life, and I feel like the last thing you want to do is continue to study, continue to read, continue to go to the gym, like something that's a little bit more difficult inside of your life than the mindless just scrolling or watching a show or whatnot. But going back to your personal testimonials that kind of helped you in your life, I can leave my testimonial here today that when I have sat back and rather than just continue scrolling on TikTok or watching, how Netflix, it always goes really quick to the next episode. You'll finish one episode and it's always trying to get you to watch the next and the next and the next. When I have noticed myself physically turning those off, removing them from my life for a period of time and focusing on something that matters a little bit more, once again, my physical health, my learning capabilities, creating network opportunities or making new friends or whatnot, I've seen an influx of happiness and a personal sense of accomplishment when I've been able to do that. And so, Justin, I want to applaud you for really pointing that out, because I feel like whether, once again, it's reading or going to the gym or whatever it may be, it's something that it's not easy for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And I want to take that as a win in and of itself, because like you said, what was it? A little less than one book a year is what the average adult reads here in America. And so just by getting that going, even if you guys are starting at a very low point where you're reading a page a day, you're reading 5 paragraphs a day, just get started on something. If you're not at the point where you can read, like Justin said, an hour a day, so every week you're reading a new book, just try for these little increments. Because Justin, I feel like that's something you can relate to. It's not like your business went from 0 to 100 in the overnight, right? It took a lot of steps, as you've already discussed. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no question. I mean, The whole thing is, that's why I said, like, what's the next physical action? So the two questions I think that we ask ourselves is, what attitude shift can I make right now that will move me towards my goal? So an attitude shift is like enthusiasm, passion, energy. Like, we can shift our attitude. Like, I'm going to look at the bright side versus the sour side. So it's attitude shift. And then the second one is, so what attitude shift can I make? And then what's the next physical action that I can take? Because it's not enough just to shift your attitude. You got to go take action. You got to move towards the goal. And that's how you start creating momentum. And momentum is the secret to business.
So now jumping back over to the mentorship side, right? Whatever you're doing in your life, right? You start taking these actions and whatnot. But I really appreciate that one of your big factors in those 4 keys to success was seeking mentorship, seeking somebody who can kind of guide you along in that journey. Because a lot of times it could be very daunting to get started on, granted, let's say not even a business, because that could be very grand scheme of things. Let's say just something very personal inside of your life, creating better relationships, working on your physical health, just trying to become a better person, increase your faith, right? There's all these little increments we have inside of our lives to kind of build us up as who we are. But a lot of times we'll go through that journey either by ourselves, or we'll have a couple people in our corner who don't necessarily know a lot about the specific topic you're chasing, right? You might have your wife who's encouraging you to eat more healthy and go to the gym and whatnot, but she might not know the best process for you, what you should eat, when you should go to the gym, what kind of workouts you should do. And so I think it's very important when you're seeking mentorship to find somebody who is a few years ahead of you, who's kind of gone through your exact journey and they're kind of where you want to be. So what kind of mentorship did you seek out early on, Justin? And what would you recommend to somebody looking for a mentor in whatever aspect of life they're chasing?
Yeah. So I tell people, you want to model mentors. Like, you want to model them. Like Kobe Bryant modeled Michael Jordan. He studied him. He studied the way he studied his footwork. He studied his moves. He literally and Jordan recognized it. Like, they actually became really close because of it, because Jordan recognized that Kobe was a lot like him. You want to study and model mentors. Success leaves clues, and so you want to model them. And a lot of your mentors don't have to be like physical proximity mentors. Like, a lot of your mentors will be, from podcasts, from books. Like, some of the people that really trained me, I never spent actual time with them. With that said, there is power in proximity. So you want to get as close to people as possible. Like, particularly as I was in my 20s, like, I tell people this, like, a lot of people are like, what's the best, where should I invest my money? Like, in other words, let's say you make a little bit of money. The best investment you can ever make is in yourself. No question, for sure. It's better than real estate. It's better than cryptocurrency. It's better than stock market. It's investment that you make into you. So into your proximity, into your mindset, into your belief system, like, anything you're doing to invest into you is what it's going to have. I've invested, now it's probably millions of dollars, but really hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years in me, just in attending the event and meeting the person, like, big partying at the mastermind, buying the course, like, whatever it was. I just constantly was pouring into my mind. And that's paid the most ridiculous dividend ever, because you just grow as a person. Like, you got to understand, you don't want to continue to be the person you are right now 6 months from now. You don't want to continue to be the person you are right now a year from now. You want to grow. You want to change.
Mm-hmm.
You want to adapt. Like, you want friends to be like, man, you've grown a lot. Like, you've changed a lot. If you're the same person now you were in high school, that's not a good thing. If you're the same person you are now that you were 2 years ago, that's not a good thing. Doesn't mean your morals and values have to change, but, like, you should grow. You don't want to be stagnant. There's no maintaining. Like, you're either growing or dying. So if you're not growing, you're dying. Like, it's going the wrong direction. There's gravitational pull for death. As soon as you're born, like, you start dying. And so you want to be growing proactively and intentionally. And, like, you're going to that next level in your life, and you're going to that next level in your dreams and your goals and, your purpose. And because I tell people, you're not who you are, you're who you were born to be. And so you're trying to become and be that person that you were actually born to be versus, like, the person you are now. And
so, Justin, taking that one step further, right? People can find these mentors. And I like what you said. A mentor doesn't necessarily have to be somebody who's right next to you in your proximity. I've never personally thought about it like that. Mentors can be to that great book you've listened to on Audible. It could be that podcast you like. It could be that speaker you watch on YouTube. It could be, or it could be somebody very close to you, somebody from your local congregation. It could be a father figure, whoever it might be. And for you personally, Justin, it sounds like you've always kind of bet on yourself. And as you were speaking and you said you've invested, hundreds of thousands of dollars into your personal development, I was kind of picturing, if everyone can picture this with me, on the stock market, right? A specific fund or a specific stock, depending on how the day goes, you might see a couple red lines going down on a downward spiral, or you might see a couple green lines going on an upward spiral. So for Justin, as you were speaking, I was kind of picturing this in my own life, like investing into me, reading, become a better person, right? And I'm picturing these green upward spirals. And for your personal life, I'm picturing that too, Justin. I'm seeing these green little arrows going up, 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 right? But I feel like some of the listeners today, if Justin hasn't hit you hard enough yet, guys, I want to point this out specifically. If you guys aren't picturing in your mind right now, you being the ones who can have those green upward arrows, just like the stock market, but for your own personal lives, right? If you're not picturing those green arrows going up, 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 and you're seeing the red ones going down, try and focus on the small areas of improvement that we've already talked about. Go have that conversation. Go say sorry. Go try something new. Step out of your comfort zone a little bit. Because a lot of times if you can't have that own self-confidence, knowing that if you invest money or you invest time or whatever it may be into your personal growth, how are you ever going to see those upward trends? You're always going to continue to see the negative ones. So Justin, how have you kind of framed your mindset into saying, if I've put this time, this effort, this money, all these crazy experiences together, and I'm going to bet them on me. I'm always 10 out of 10 times going to bet them on me. How have you got to that point in your life, and how do you know it's going to work out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's through the repetition of it's like building a muscle. It's like you just kind of start, you kind of tear it down, trial and error, and then as you grow, as you continue, you build strength over time. It's like one of it is updating your belief system on failure. Like if you're let's call it you're in your 20s somewhere, you're trying to live a significant life. But your belief system on failure, the way we've been programmed is that failing equals pain. Like failure is
correct.
Bad. And think about it, like if you didn't make the basketball team, you failed to make the team in high school, that equaled a lot of pain. If you made the team and you missed the shot, you failed, that equaled a lot of pain. Or if you can't pay your rent because you lost your job and you failed at your job, that equals a lot of pain. So failure equals pain. Failure is bad. Failure is something to avoid. And then all of a sudden you get thrown into this like world of like becoming an entrepreneur or like chasing your dreams, and you start failing all the time, and you're like, what the freak is happening? Because it's your programming is to say like to avoid this. And what I would share with you is that failure is fertilizer, and your success will grow in the fertilizer of failure. So failure is not final, it's fertilizer. You grow in this stuff. And because you're learning, like if what you're doing is not working, in other words, you're failing at what you're doing, don't just keep doing it over and over. Like adjust, adapt, and go again. Adjust, adapt, and go again. Like get better, improve. And but learn. So John Maxwell, I've done a lot of work with John Maxwell. He's like the top leadership kind of author in the world. And John says, he wrote a book called Win or Learn. And the whole concept is you either win or you learn. And if you learn, then you win. So there's no real losing in entrepreneurship or even in life, as long as you're learning. You're learning, you're growing, you're changing, you're admitting your mistakes, like you're getting better, you're improving. Well, then all of that was for your good. It was just all fertilizer. It was all stuff that it helped you to grow, So you want to like take some of those risks, those calculated risks. And if you fail, you want to fail fast and learn and adapt and then start improving and start getting better. So that's kind of how I'd share it with you. It's like, failure is fertilizer. So you've got to update that belief system on this idea of putting yourself out there and making it happen and going for it.
And it's interesting. I had an old college professor that said something very similar. This was for a very specific business point of view, but his whole principle, when you're starting a business, you fail fast and you fail cheap. That was kind of his main motto, right? And it was always interesting to me when I first started that class. I was thinking, why would this be somebody's life motto in business, right? Fail fast, fail cheap. And it took me quite a while to kind of start understanding that concept of the reason you want to fail quick is so A, obviously you can learn from your mistakes, but B, so many times people don't recognize their failures as actual failures. And so they continue to drag on and on and on, going through the exact same patterns. And it goes back to what you were saying a minute ago, Justin. As people continue going through their same processes in life, and they, from the day right now to 6 months later, if they haven't changed at all, they might not see that as a failure. But if you haven't learned, if you haven't grown, if you haven't experienced new things, that in and of itself is a failure because we're not progressing ourselves forward.
There's no question.
Yeah, we're wasting our God-given talents at that point.
Yeah,
and it goes back to the old saying of what's the definition of insanity? It's doing the same thing over and over and over again with expecting different results when it never will come. And I want to jump a little bit further as we're kind of gearing up towards the end of our episode here. I want to jump towards your successes you've seen in your life now, right? You've had some wild experiences from kind of the lows of the lows to kind of riding the wave to the highs of the highs. And as you've kind of reflected back on those inside of your life, and granted, you're still in the heart of it, right? You got plenty of years left to run your business and to spend time with your family. But what would you kind of credit your success to, both inside of your faith, your family life, your business, your own personal development? What would you credit that towards? And what kind of practical tips could you leave with somebody who is starting their new chapter of life, whether they're 60 years old and they're listening to this today and they're saying, I want to be inspired, I want to go do something with my life now, or they're 18 years old, they're just starting their adult life and they're trying to get something going for them. They're trying to make their own name. What kind of practical tips can you share?
What I've been sharing with my teams lately is to be a finisher. And one of the mentors that I modeled for years, this was a motto of his, was to be a finisher. And Thomas Monson said, stick to a task until it sticks to you. Beginners are many, finishers are few. Most people they start stuff and they don't finish stuff. Like, they make commitments, they don't keep commitments. Like, you want to be the kind of person that does what you say you're going to do. And if you say you're going to go make something happen, you hold true to the routines, habits, and disciplines long after like the emotion of the original decision are gone. And your habits don't care about your feelings. You just build the right habits and you do the right things, whether you kind of feel like doing it or not. You know, you're like, I don't feel like working out today. I don't feel like eating healthy today. You just do it because it's part of your routines, part of your habits. Like, I don't feel like making my calls today. I don't feel like going to the office. I don't feel like doing my, building that business today. I'm kind of discouraged. You do it either way because you're a finisher. You keep those commitments. And I think if you just build that mindset of I'm going to finish things I start, that is that is where you want to be. Like, that is a really powerful way of thinking about, like, I'm long on making the commitment, or I'm sure I'm making a commitment. Like, I won't make commitments unless I'm going to keep them. Like, I'm really long on the keeping of the commitment. And so don't be frivolous in saying I'm going to go do something unless you're really going to go finish it and go make sure that you make it happen.
And on that same point, Justin, I feel like a lot of times somebody will get it inside their head that they're going to go do something crazy, right? The example I've shared on the podcast a lot before, and if you've ever experienced this, make sure to let me know. But have you ever had that moment where you're laying down in bed at night and for some reason you can't fall asleep? You got like a million thoughts racing through your head. And this has been me 1,000 times where I'll lay down and I'll be thinking, okay, it's like midnight, it's 1 a.m, I can't fall asleep, but you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm going to get all this stuff done. I'm going to go hit the gym. I'm going to get all my homework done. I'm going to go, I make this whole checklist of amazing accomplishments I'm going to have the next day. And then I wake up and it's 7:30. I'm already 3 hours behind. Or I wake up and I feel all groggy. I don't go to the gym, right?
Yeah.
There's these little things that I plan inside of my life where at the moment I'm all thrilled up. And maybe that's my listeners right now on the podcast, right? You're all super excited to get going after what Justin shared with us today. You're going to start that business. You're going to go ask that person out. You're going to go kind of chase whatever dream you're after. What kind of tips would you leave us, Justin, of saying that no matter what, I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to show up to what I say I'm going to show up to. And on that same concept, is there some sort of reality check we might have to have with ourselves so we don't kind of overcommit to a million different things and say, I'm actually going to accomplish what I'm going to accomplish?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reality check is not to overcommit, right? It's to say no to things and not overcommit. And when you put your word to it, you're going to do it. So success is an identity process, and you'll never outperform the way you see yourself. And so success is your identity. Being a finisher is an identity. And so you adopt and update that identity. Like, I finish things. So I won't even say yes unless I know I'm going to finish it. And I'll see it through till the very, very end. And the way we build confidence, like the foundation of building confidence, because I think a lot of us are like, I freaking lack confidence. I don't know if I have confidence in myself. The way you build confidence is by making and keeping commitments that you make to yourself. And the reason why is because it builds identity. that you're a commitment keeper. In other words, a goal achiever versus just a goal setter. And that's how you start. Like, you tell yourself, I'm going to go to bed at 10 o'clock. You go to bed at 10 o'clock. You tell yourself, I'm going to wake up at whatever it is, 5 o'clock. You wake up at 5 o'clock. Like those, when you keep commitments that you make to yourself, that's the baseline of how you start building the confidence in yourself, because you're building an identity. An identity is, if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And I feel like with me, I mean, I'm trying to think of that. I certainly fall short in 50 areas of my life for sure.
Right, right. Everyone does.
I don't think I fall very short when it comes to keeping commitments. I'm trying to think of an example of maybe a time that I have here recently, like in the last however many years, but like, I won't say I'm going to do something if I'm not going to go do it, And so, that's identity. You're true to that identity over time.
And it sounds like, from your personal viewpoint, confidence isn't something that's kind of just inherently given to somebody, right? Do you believe somebody's born with confidence over someone else, or is it something you have to practice?
I mean, I think maybe someone has like some inherent, confidence in certain areas or competencies in certain areas, but the foundation of confidence is believing in yourself. What do you do if you don't even believe in yourself? The precursor to that is courage. You have courage to move forward. You have courage to start the business. You have courage to go for it. Courage to ask the girl out. Courage to be a finisher, even when you're not sure if you're going to be able to finish it. Like, that's courage. And then the courage, when you lean into your courage, the courage will start to build your confidence, because the foundation of confidence is believing in yourself.
And that sounds like something you've kind of developed over the course of your life. And I guess, Justin, just to kind of start closing out here on today's episode of the Get Over Yourself podcast, it seems like there's never one straight line. To give some framework, I've interviewed a lot of successful individuals. Once again, success is kind of defined by each individual, but success in business, success in family, success in faith, success in their own lifestyle, right? And one of my favorite interviews I've ever done, and the reason why it's one of my favorites, is because this man's version of success was so crazy different than mine that I'd never even thought of this as a success. But his name was Junya Ray Bubran. And he comes from an immigrant family. He lives in the United States. He works here for like 4 or 5 months of the year just to get enough money. And then he goes to some third world country, and he does this every single year on the calendar mark. He gets this money, and he goes to some third world country, and he goes and purely serves that community that he's in. He brings a couple of pieces of luggage with him, everything that's thrown inside. He goes and serves that community. He leaves everything behind. Then he goes back to the US, works again, and then immediately ships back out. His version of success has nothing to do with monetary value. It had nothing to do with how big his house was or how fancy his clothes were or whatever it may be. But he was one of the happiest guys I've ever interviewed on this podcast. And you could truly feel that he was passionate about what he was doing, and he found his version of success. So Justin, kind of closing out here, how did you find your version of success, and how would you recommend others find their own personal version? Because it looks completely different for everyone.
Yeah, to me, it's what I call the ILI formula. So ILI is income, lifestyle, impact. So income is, are you making the income that you want to make to provide the lifestyle that you want? Because I actually believe that income's not the real goal. The real goal is, do I love my life?
Correct.
Do I love my life? Like, am I mentally happy, emotionally happy? Am I waking up when I want to wake up? Do I enjoy the experience I'm having in life? And then but here's the thing: if you made all the income in the world and had all of the lifestyle in the world, but you're selling cocaine, that's not going to work either, right? Because your impact sucks. And so you want to have, the income that you want, create a life that you love, but then ultimately impact other people's lives, because other people's lives is how you create meaning and value and legacy. It's not all about you. It's about like the impact you're making in other people's lives. So those are the three ways I think about it, is your, your income, and then lifestyle, and then impact. And, am I making an impact? Does my work matter? Does my life matter? Am I adding value to other people? That's
perfect. Thank you for that, Justin. And guys, before I ask Justin our final question here on the Get Over Yourself podcast, I want to remind you that you can leave us a positive review on whatever platform you're listening to. And if you ever want to reach out to Justin, I'll make sure to add his YouTube and his website and stuff. You could go check all those out. He has some amazing trainings on there and just growth strategies a lot further than what our conversation has taken us today. So if you want to continue studying some of the words that Justin has shared, make sure to go hit those links in the description of today's episode. But Justin, just to close out for our final question, it's the question I ask every single person I have here on the podcast. It's this: If every single person in the entire world could hear you right now, they had a pair of headphones and somehow you're connected up to every single person in the world. They understood you, no language barriers, whatever it may be. What piece of advice would you leave them and why would it be?
It's super simple. It's just 3 words. Just be the one. So be the one that lives a life. Be the one that writes a story that future generations of kids that are yet unborn, they know your story. Be the one that go from the person that you are to the person that you're born to be. Like, go be that one. Be the one that the entire heritage of people you've had, your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, all of those generations of people from all over the world came together to create you. So you have this moment, that you have this time. Go be the one that is that one, and you'll notice that it's not become the one. You don't have to become it. You already are it. You're the one. It's just, it's being in the present of going and be that person today. Go be that best version of yourself today. So that would be what I would say.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Justin. And thank you for joining us here on the Get Over Yourself podcast. Guys, once again, go make sure to check out Justin's pages. And with that all being said, just remember, it'll all be okay. Just take a step back and continue growing your confidence so you can be the one.